willing to receive it. Amen.
Amen. Alison, thank you very, very much this morning. And in my word to the wise this morning, I had a prepared word to the wise. But this morning, early this morning, I came up the phone speaking to a young lady for about 25 minutes or more. And it dawned on me that people are hurting. And I said, I keep promising that I will do a program based on gossip. And the reason why I say that is because there are a lot of important people, a lot of big preachers, a lot of good Christians who gossip has become part of their whole routine. It has become part of their bread. It has become part of everything that they do. And they never approach people with the nonsense they are speaking about people. They spread it to others. And sometimes when you get back to the people, it can be very damaging. There's one thing in the Bible that God says he hates, and it's gossip. He hates it because of the devastating effect it can have on individuals. As I said to the young lady today, you will never know who your friends are when the going is good. When the going is good, you will never know. I've experienced that myself. When the going is good, everybody will be your friend when you are doing well, when you are soaring high, when you are flying. You will have no enemies to your face. It may be in the background, but when the going is good, you will not know who your friends are. It's when the going is tough, when you are fallen, when you are broken, when you are in a place where you can hardly help yourself, then you will know who your friends are. And for the most of the people who are around you now that are grinning with you and things like that, you fall up that chair. And those same people will be the ones to be in the forefront of kicking you from the behind. This is how it is. You know, Rick James had this song, standing on the top. The lyrics went like this: when you're on the top, everyone you meet will be a long lost friend. They will say how great you are. He said, but when you're on the low, where do all the fans and freak and people go? And then he answered rhetorically, I don't know. And I want to, as I said to the young lady this morning, the Bible said, put no trust in man. And sometimes we refrain from that, we fall away from that, and we take it for granted that the grin teeth and the smile and the adoration and the expression of care and love is real. But I'm saying you will never know how real that is until you are broken, battered, bruised. Until you are done, you will never know who your friends are. And I want to say a warning also for those preachers, lots of them in my church I'm talking about, big preachers, who gossip seem to be your meal. Gossip seem to be what strengthens you. I'm saying no gossiper will inherit the kingdom of God. The Bible gives you a way to deal with things that come to your ears. Not to tell Tom, Dick, Harry, Henry, George, Fred, and Munigal. That's not the Bible. That's how the Bible structured this thing. No gossiper will enter the kingdom of heaven. A word to the wise is sufficient. Well, folks, we have stopped playing music because Glenda stopped me from playing music. She said when I play music, it creates too much trouble. And I want to say who Glenda is. Glenda is one of the team who helps with the coordination of a lot of stuff. She said to me that stop playing the music, so I don't play the music. But we are trying to get our own music to avoid the drama that she said I was creating when I play music. And this morning, before I introduce our speaker, we have a special speaker this morning. A speaker who I've known for many, many years, so I can vouch that this is a good speaker this morning. Not that the others were not good, but I say I can vouch for this one before even she speaks. I want to thank those who continue to support the program, who have us on air. I want to thank all those ladies especially. I have a gift for all those who have been supporting the program. But I am saying that today we have hit 100 subscribers on YouTube, and we are here for 2 months. And to get to 100 people in 2 months, we are doing well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and share. And we promise that this will be a family between you and who you are allowed to join. So I'm just thankful for all those who continue to support the program. You are the reason why we are on air. And every time I get up in the morning and I put a program together and I come, I know I'm coming. I'm just one of the many that have this program on air. One of many folks. My role is different from your role, but we are all contributing to make sure that the gospel of Jesus Christ, make sure the social issue that bring pain to people, make sure that these things are felt all over and we can bring solution and help to people. So I'm grateful. I will not call your names today because I want to give my guests as much time as possible to get this going. So I want to introduce her now. I'm trying to open something here to provide introduction to her. Verkisha, let me just go through our introduction here. I like people to know who's speaking to them. Next thing the feel is just he brought on his friend and okay, Alex, thanks. Verkisha Graham-Leito is a professional in the field of behavioral science. She possesses a bachelor degree in behavioral science from the Adventist University, from the Andrews University, and a master's degree in criminology with criminal psychology received in Kingston University, London. She is certified in CSI, Forensic Service, and Caribbean Defense and Security from the Williams J. Perry Center for Hemispheric Defense Studies in Washington. She's also completed another master's in counseling psychology. I don't know why she wanted to have so much master's. The Bible says no man can serve two masters. Anyway, she has a passion for offender rehabilitation and is also a certified life coach trained in social emotional first aid. Recently, she was the technical coordinator employed with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of National Security in supervising research, monitoring, and evaluation. She has also worked with the Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and is an adjunct lecturer in the University of the Southern Caribbean. Verkisha is a fun and down-to-earth realist and passionate about helping others in their pursuit of wholeness, and I can attest to that. She has genuine care for the well-being of others and has been providing counsel on life and love for the past 10 years. She enjoys dancing in front of a mirror, like that she qualified it, and traveling, and and hope to skydive one day. Verkisha, welcome to Victorious Lifestyle. You are on the best program on air at this time in Trinidad and Tobago, and and I want to thank you for being here. So you want to say
Thank
anything
you,
about? Go ahead, Verkisha.
Yeah, just saying thank you so much. It's such a lovely opportunity to be here. I mean, being on the podcast is one thing and having persons there and talking at conferences, but here in the radio station where the listeners of Trinidad and Tobago could really lock on and listen to the social issues that you are bringing to the forefront is quite important. So it's such a privilege. Thank you.
You said something about a podcast. What podcast are you talking?
Oh, yes. So I run a podcast called Therapy Thursdays, held every other Thursdays, where we look at all issues regarding God, life, and love. You can find that on YouTube as well underneath Verkisha Graham. And we deal with social issues, we deal with the topic that we're talking about today, sexual grooming. We look at forgiveness, but we take it from that practical aspect. You know what I mean? Like, how do we really find the solutions to the issues we may be facing in life?
Okay. I guess everybody have been going over already. But what is sexual grooming? It's very. You look on the television, you are seeing small short skit dealing with sexual grooming. You're hearing the talk, and you begin to wonder, well, what could sexual grooming? What is this all about? What is sexual grooming?
Yeah. Pastor, before we begin, I must lay this disclaimer, right? It's such a sensitive topic, and listeners or viewers may experience uncomfortable feelings. And if that happens, I want them to know that they are okay if they decide to stop listening. It's okay for you to do so, because we know the sensitivity of the topic. So sexual grooming is really that preparatory process in which a perpetrator or offender gradually gains a person's trust with the intent of being sexually abusive. Now, when we look at grooming, it's that slow, methodical and intentional process. And it really has to do with the manipulation of a person to a point where they can be victimized, and it can happen to almost anyone by almost anyone.
All right, so you define, but what should someone look for? Someone is saying, I wonder if this love life that I'm living here is really sexual grooming. I wonder if this overture that I'm receiving here is really a form of sexual grooming. So what signs should we look out for?
Yeah, and that's the thing, when we look at sexual grooming, we have to remember that it's a slow process, right? It's subtle, it's gradual, it's escalating, it's deliberate and purposeful. So it happens over a period of time. Sometimes it can happen over some days, some months, and even it can happen over some years. So you would want to analyze, what is this person doing to me? So some of these signs. But before I reach these signs, there are just some important thing, if you permit me, that I need to just discuss first, right? In terms of how the victim is being selected, right? And it's really those that are vulnerable, whether financially or emotionally, those who may go through a family crisis and may find themselves on their own with no one to talk to, or even understand how they may feel. So you can see that situation being curated for the offender to find themselves there in the lives of the victim. So groomers will often take that time to know their victims or targets, right? So they find out their strengths and their weaknesses and areas of problems within their lives, and they may do this through their family or friends. And the other thing is that it happens with adults. And oftentimes, if adults are victims, they themselves will solicit that information. They will give that information as well to their offenders. And then you find groomers trying to meet that need, So when it comes to children, some of those signs, it starts with that subtle behavior, you know what I mean? So the person may become withdrawn. They may seem troubled by something, but unwilling to talk about it. That person may also experience insomnia, so they are unable to sleep at night. They sleep for an hour, they get back up, and they really have that issue with sleeping. There are changes in eating and exercising, right? They're reluctant to speak. They don't visit any family anymore. They don't visit any friends, and they become very secretive. You tend to spend more time on the phone or online. And I know we're going to go into that in terms of the online grooming part, because that is so prevalent now, given our technological era. But those are some of the signs you would definitely want to ask yourself. And I do have some tips in terms of how what persons could probably ask themselves and really, find out if they are being groomed, Mm-hmm.
So there are different forms of grooming.
There are,
yeah. Is a sexual grooming. Then there are different forms of grooming.
Yeah.
For the same outcome or for different outcomes?
Well, it could be for different outcomes, really, because there's human trafficking. Radicalization. So, and that takes it on the other scale. But what you find happening, especially with children, it's for sexual purposes, sexual grooming, etc., sexual abuse, sexual gratification. But there is also what you would find is that the older population, they go through grooming as well. And it can be online, and it can be in person. And this is mainly for financial purposes, you know, where persons insert themselves into your lives, and they tell you they have so many problems happening with them, and if you can assist them by sending them monies and stuff like that. Yeah.
So therefore, adults can be groomed also.
Definitely, adults can be groomed. And, you know, I'm so happy you are asking that, because a lot of times we don't see it that way. We ascribe grooming to only happen to children. But adults they can experience grooming. Now, they may not call it grooming because oftentimes they don't know the definition of it, and therefore they don't have a word to put to what's happening. But it is grooming when you look at the manipulation involved and when you look at the end goal, which is that, you know, sexual abuse. Yeah. So adults definitely go through grooming.
So how can I put, since you said earlier that grooming mostly happen to the vulnerable, then how can I, because the reason I word here vulnerable, so how can I protect myself from this group?
Yeah. Before I answer that too, as adults, if you want to know you're being groomed, you can ask yourself some questions. You know, you can, and I think this is really important, Pastor. Ask yourself, is this person asking for very personal information early on in your friendship? You know, because it could be that the person is trying to build a relationship with you, but look at the nature of the conversation. Is this person trying to keep the relationship a secret? Ask yourself, is this person trying to meet me in secret or alone? Are they trying to isolate me? And ask yourself, do you feel pressured in doing or saying things you may not necessarily want to do or say? Are you uncomfortable with the sudden intimacy that this person is trying to force upon you? You know, and also ask yourself, are they asking you about your sexual experiences or how you feel about certain sexual things? So there is that level of discomfort, you know. But remember your question there again. It's so much information. Remember your question.
Senses, or how can someone protect themselves? And then I was asking about, since we are dealing with the issue of someone who is vulnerable, then how can I protect myself seeing that I'm already vulnerable to what is happening to me?
Yeah. Well, definitely you protect yourself by firstly becoming aware. All right. You protect yourself by becoming aware. And that's why we're having programs like this, that you listen and you become familiar with what's going on. You become so much aware of yourself, aware of your surroundings, so that if anything goes or to how you're feeling goes contrary to your values, okay, that will raise a red flag. But definitely one of the other ways that you can protect yourself is that you must have some sort of person that you can share with. Don't isolate yourself, don't isolate yourselves to such situations, right? And you want to know that, okay, these are some of the signs that I can look forward to, right? So you know that this person is trying to isolate me. You know this person is trying to get into my personal space. So one of the ways is to create boundaries. Create boundaries for persons that are around you. That is so important. Create boundaries.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Create boundaries.
Yeah. Some of us, we get, and I talk about it all the time, we get so uncomfortable with saying no. And it's okay to say no. You don't have to be, you don't have to say yes to everything. You have to become so aware of your situation, of your environment, of yourself, that if anyone or anything should try to insert themselves into your life and it's making you feel uncomfortable, and you know that it's making you go, against your values, that it's okay to walk away from it. It's okay to say no. You have to protect your space, protect your mind, and protect those that you love. And that is one of the ways we mean by creating boundaries. Yeah.
Okay. Who does the grooming really? Who does who?
Who does that?
No. First, before we get there, is grooming a gender issue or is grooming across the board?
Listen, anyone, anywhere, at any time does the grooming. There is no one particular person that you have to look out for. Another thing that is really, really important is that grooming really.
When you say across the board, anyone, you mean like fathers, brothers, teachers, pastors, doctors, lawyers? Is that what you mean? Like anybody?
Anybody. Anyone can be a groomer, no matter their age, their gender, or their race. Now, you have to remember, let me say this, right? Grooming is really it's a power play, right? It's a power play. So you're looking at that relationship. One has power, one does not. So anyone can be a groomer. It's not their status or what they hold, but it's the power that they hold in whatever situation and whatever walks of life with that outcome that they want of sexual abuse, and they have that intent of gaining the person's trust. Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the effects of grooming? Some of the effects.
When you say the effects, you mean the effects that
but what will happen to the person based on they being groomed? What stands to happen? Because as the world that we live in now, we don't know how, and I'm saying this guardedly, we don't know how someone will treat the grooming. You might see grooming in one way, but someone may actually enjoy that. So I'm saying, what are really the effects of grooming?
Wow. Now listen, you remember that groomer? Let me just go back there right quickly. That groomer creates that external persona of a trustworthy, dependable, upstanding person in the community, right? They present themselves as someone who cares. So as I was saying before, they can be anyone: teachers, coaches, ministers, counselors, spiritual advisors, governors, charity workers. They are basically good people, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
Right? Good people. And as we talk about the effects on the person that is being groomed, they experience psychological effects. So they experience cognitive distortion in their thinking and learning. So the way how they feel and the way how they think and the way how they behave, it's not in sync. And that's what I mean by that cognitive distortion. They have problems in their attachment and relationships. They have really bad relationships. They don't tend to stay in relationships long. They don't have that understanding and the emotional intelligence that comes along with fostering strong relationships. They go through stigma and shame as well, because persons within the community may know that something is going on. And because we have such a rape culture, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, and in the Caribbean, but you see it in all parts of the world. We have that rape culture where we say, well, she looks for it. Look how she dressed. Look how she carry about herself, Look how, and it happens to boys too, to males as well. And we always find an excuse on the behalf of the victim rather than looking at the perpetrator per se. So because we sometimes get involved in this rape culture, we put that blame on the victim, and they suffer from stigma and they suffer from shame. Some of the effects as well is also physical, through their body and in their brain, because of the mental stress that they go through. Some persons stop eating, and they go through this process, and it goes over into the medical aspect of things as well. So these are some of the serious effects that you can find on the survivor. And when we look at the offender, the perpetrator, they experience effects as well, especially when let's say it's addressed, and it's found out, they have their families. And I know we will come to that in terms of when we look at who is really the groomer, and who does it and who takes advantage sexually, especially with children. It's men. It's not a homosexual thing. It really happens heterosexually. And because of this, their families are broken apart, and they experience stress as well.
So are boys and girls subjected to the same level of grooming, or boys, or who are the ones, male or female, who are subject to more of this stuff?
So what will happen is that it really happens to boys and girls, but studies would have shown that girls are 3 times more susceptible to being groomed, but it does happen to both boys and girls. Yeah.
Okay. And you said before, it is a heterosexual issue, or is it more so a heterosexual issue, or is it because in growing up, I'll tell you why, I'm working some baggages here. In growing up, you always wanted, once someone seemed to be homosexual or LGBTQ, let's say, you immediately, you want them to stay away from children. The fancy term of grooming was not involved. But the idea why you wanted them to stay away from children had to do with what we call grooming now. So I'm wondering if this thing is a heterosexual thing, is it a homosexual thing? Is it across the board as both heterosexual and homosexuals engage in what we call grooming?
Yeah, I understand. Now, what we need to remember too is that children are more at risk of grooming particularly because they are vulnerable, right? So we're looking at this situation, and because of their vulnerability, so children and care disabilities or who are neglected, they are targeted by groomers, and because of this, groomers will exploit this opportunity. So when we look at the homosexual and heterosexual dichotomy, science really has shown that most child molesters are heterosexual, and because abuse is more about power and control, and it's not anchored in a sexual orientation, right? And most men who molest little boys are not gay, and research backs this up. Science backed this up, right? And what they found, I have some research affair. What they found is that 21% of the child molesters that they studied, they assaulted little boys, and they were exclusively homosexual, but nearly 80% of the men who molested little boys were heterosexual or bisexual, and most of these men were married and had children of their own. So they were married men, married individuals with children, and this did not present itself as a deterrent to molesting other kids. They still continued regardless that they were married and regardless that they had children of their own.
That research seems to be an attack on married men. I wonder if I'm right to say that. Anyway, no.
No, hold on. Before you go, I want to respond to that. Here's why. Because it's and I know you said that as a joke, Pastor, I get that, but I do want to address how others may see it as well.
Okay.
Our mind is so tailored to see the negative aspect of things, when really we can see that research as a way of calling us higher as married men, and not just men, but people, to hold your marriage in high esteem, to guard your marriage against these things. And it's a call for perpetrators as well, that what you may be going through, because, you know, if they're feeling attracted to children, or if they feel that desire to step outside of their marriage, that they should seek help before it reaches that end of sexual abuse and they end up in prison or so. But take stock of what's happening and seek that help before, as you hold your marriage in high regard. Yeah.
You see what is troubling about the findings there? And I am one who believes in research. Yeah? I believe in statistics. Yeah? I do not play around with that. And that's why my whole attitude towards conspiracy theorists and things is so aggressive towards them, because I believe in data. What is troubling about that data? Now I said we need to pause and get more into that data, because you will see that a married man is already into the females already. So to see married men being shown up on the data as interfering with boys and grooming little boys is troubling indeed. If you understand what I'm saying, it's a very troubling, it's a phenomenon that needs to be investigated thoroughly to find out what could be causing something like that to happen. Anyway, because I don't want us to run out of time and I don't get too many questions I have to ask. Are perpetrators always aware of what they are doing? Or could it be their method of building relationship? That's the way I feel I need to build a relationship. I need to lure someone in. I need to observe what is happening and try to this is my way. Could it be that this is just simply my way of building a relationship?
Yeah, now, okay, when we look at the nature of grooming, right? It's that intentional process of manipulating a person to a point where they can be victimized. Remember that. Intentional process of manipulating a person to a point where they can be victimized. Now, there must be some form of awareness. However, the reality of the situation is that we often see the end result of grooming, which is the sexual abuse part, right? Mm-hmm. But the events leading up to it is often not termed grooming because of the lack of awareness of what grooming really means. Yeah. But both the victim and the perpetrator knows that the relationship is wrong, as it often occurs in the secrecy, especially for the most part. But when we talk about building relationships, there should be that aspect of honesty, open and honest communication, and respect for others. But with grooming, we see the characteristics of disrespect and dishonesty, because the perpetrator is manipulative and deceptive, right? They use their power. So you're asking, could it be that is their method of building relationships? Well, if that is their idea of building relationships, then it's a faulty one, right? Because grooming is the perversion of a relationship, right? Because when you talk about building relationship, there is that aspect of honesty and open communication. But groomers tend to be secretive. So that is not the characteristics of a healthy relationship, and they are going about it wrong, which brings me to the mental illness aspect of it. If an individual really believes that that is their way of building a relationship, then something cognitively in their mind is really wrong. And then you look back to their childhood and you look back to see how they were raised, and if that was also introduced to them in their childhood.
So you're saying childhood trauma carries itself over into adult life?
Definitely. And I can give you a case, an example. I was working with an offender in prison. And, actually I was just going through the file, and he was in there as a sexual offender, as a sex offender. And he abused a family. But when you look back in his file, it's because he was abused and his father was abused. And you saw that going back, straight back, into his family, into his generation, and he experienced childhood trauma. So he grew up thinking that is what I'm supposed to do.
I get you. Before we take another question, Alex, can we open the line now and see if anybody would like to engage Ms. Graham?
Surely, let's do that. 622-4911. You can call in right now and speak live. The program Victorious Lifestyle with Pastor Brown. And Pastor, you may continue.
Okay. Verkisha, is this an issue of therapeutic treatment in the case of the perpetrator? Is it something that we are looking at that needs intervention? I'm not speaking about the victim now. I speak on behalf of the offender or the perpetrator. Is there need for intervention that can help with that?
Yeah. Now, you will mostly find treatment being made available after the offender is labeled as a sexual abuser or sex offender, right? However, as it pertains to sexual grooming, if the offender wants help, they can seek it through therapy, right? And the reason why it really happens after, the act has been committed, because grooming is so technical and persons are in denial of it really happening. And the perpetrator himself, it brings shame, So how do I go about saying like, hey, I'm a groomer, you hardly find that. But what we're saying is, if that person indeed recognize that something is faulty in the way they go about relationships and relationship building, then you can seek help. Don't let it reach that point where you have to commit the sexual abuse and you have to be labeled as a sex offender to get help, right? I'm also advocating for professional.
Stick up in there, stick a call.
All right, let's take a call here. Pardon me, Ms. Graham. Hello, good morning, welcome. Okay, that person was probably on for a while. We will try again in a bit. Please continue. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, I was just saying that I'm also advocating for professionals in their various communities to talk more about it, so people can be made aware of what grooming is, so that they can readily identify it and direct persons to get help, right?
Line here once more. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. I was here, I listened to your conversation. That is not their power, That's the power of the evil force, which we call Satan or Shaitan. You see, he's so clever and so powerful, and he gets you and you don't even know he gets you. It's not their power, the guys. It's the power of the devil. Check it out good.
Yeah.
It's not the power, not their power. They ain't no power. They're weak. That's the power of Satan got them, and that is it. Helpless. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But I think what she meant is that whether it's Satan or Shaitan or whoever you want to call it, the fact remains they are driven by power. They may not know that the power behind them is the devil, but what the devil has placed in them is that desire for power and having power over people. And the whole issue of grooming is from a point of power. The weak could hardly groom this powerful. Usually with the powerful, you groom the weak. Someone who is in total disarray can hardly be able to groom someone who is well put together and strong in what they believe. So when she said power, she didn't mean that it was some power that they have. She meant that in their mind, they wanted, is a power relationship that's going on there. That they are hoping that their power will cause you who are weaker to succumb to where they want to take you. I think that's what you were saying, Verkisha.
Yes, definitely. And also, yes, we are frail as humans and we were born and shaped in iniquity, but it still brings the aspect of choice to Pastor Brown, we all are given that free will of choice. And groomers, as you're saying, they lend themselves onto that, that power and authority over the weaker vessel. And in the big story of things, yes, we know we're in that cosmic battle between, Satan and Jesus and us in between there, definitely. But we know the evil one, Satan, he empowers for all these things to happen. But it's still a choice for us to accept that. And if we do that, then we live out that in our lives. But most of the times, and I really want to make this point clear, perpetrators, they experience issues as well. And I know we put all the attention on victims, and rightfully so, but offenders, they have their issues that they are battling with, and they need help. And some of them, they don't know, they don't know where to go for the help, because every time they may find, it's like, who do I go to talk to about this issue? I will be blamed. I will be ridiculed. I will be shamed, and we need to find that balance. I'm not saying we encourage it, but we are here to love mankind, and we are here to direct and to help, and spread the gospel to the hopeless and to the prisoners. So where do they go? Where do they go? Where can they go? Right. And I'm also thinking, even in the church, in the religious aspect, do we have a group? Do we have a place for people if they're experiencing that, before it is festered, before it manifests itself into the sexual abuse? Do we have a place they can run to? Do they have a place they can go to talk to someone about what they're facing? Do they, Yeah,
and I agree with you. I've thrown out this to someone that I thought would have seen it as critical as I did. And I said that what we really need in the organization, in every organization, but especially in the church, is something like the EPA, where a group of selected, experienced, trustworthy, trustworthy, a board comprising of folks of renown who are trustworthy, who are trusted, who are known to be there for people. And that board can exist with 12 or so persons. And someone who are having a problem, know that they can call one of those persons who are so experienced to help, and they can talk to. As you emphasize over and over, having no one to talk to, it creates a situation to make people want to hide. And you see, across the society, we are not a society as in developed countries where counseling and things are normal. A guy would tell you, I cannot make the work tomorrow, I've got to see my counselor, and nobody will laugh. We are not a society like that. So therefore, the society itself should create the avenues. Sometimes I sit and look at the television and I see speaking about being careful and the grooming and the trafficking. But outside of that, if I want to groom or I want to be a trafficker, there is no place I can go if they are overwhelmed with that desire. No place I can go. So you are advertising something, saying that something should not be, but they give no opportunity for the one who is so inclined to find a way out. And same thing in the church also. If I am Terence Brown here, and I am so pushed to that point that I look around the young people, the boys, the girls in the church, and I have that great desire to go into this whole idea of sexual grooming them, and I'm being overpowered, like the chorus said, by the enemy. There is no place to run. There's no place to run. And what makes it even worse, you can say, well, why don't you go to your pastor, your elder? We have other history. I started my word to the wise over the history of what has happened, where people are not trustworthy, where people feel they can talk anything that has come to them. So you find yourself in that situation until we build those barriers. We will continue to fight with this, Verkisha. Because it's one thing to talk about the illness, and then you have no respect, no way the person with the illness can go. It's just
no form of rehabilitation.
No form of rehabilitation. Nothing is available more than old tried roads that are full of holes. You find the problem will persist. But anyway, I'm gonna go there because I just get too overwhelmed with the whole thing. Now, how prevalent is this whole issue of grooming? How prevalent?
No, it happens a lot. And I mean, we would hear it through our parents and our grandparents, I mean, going way back again, because they couldn't readily define it. They couldn't, put the statistics to it. As I said, it often manifests itself at the end when it's sexual abuse, and that's if they decide to report it, for it to be recorded. But it happens because of the nature of it, and because it's so all-encompassing, as in it can happen anywhere, at your home, in your school, at your jobs. It's so prevalent. But we often mistake it because the rape culture I was mentioning before, where we think persons deserve it. And that's just how men are, and boys will be boys. We don't readily identify it and call it out. So it carries itself from generation to generation, but it happens all around us.
But and when people are sexually groomed, and the result of the perpetrator has been met, the individual, what happens to them? Do they go into a sort of looseness, as some people say, or do they come back from it? What usually happens?
Now, and that goes into the effects I was talking about before, right? The psychological effects. It's a continuum. Not all persons do that. Persons are very resilient, and I think we are more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. Persons, they can indeed, form that type of, insecure attachment, and they might as well live their lives like that, and they themselves could go on to become perpetrators, but others tend to also isolate themselves, and they may become recluses of our society, and they may hide themselves and tuck themselves away. And you see those persons having issues with forming relationships, and they become very quiet, and they don't want to go out, and they don't know how to express themselves, and they become very socially awkward, and that is something as well we should be on the lookout for. But you're so right in that I wouldn't say we have really reach our ideal of creating that culture of counseling, of reaching out for help. People still refer to it as you're going by the shrink. Why I need to go by a counselor? Why I need to go by a therapist? Nothing is wrong with me. I'm not mad. When the truth is it's the opposite. We go by the counselors and we go by the therapists because we understand that we don't have all the answers. And because we want to be so proactive in living our lives with intention and purpose, we go to someone to ensure that, we're on the right path, and someone that will help us go through our ideas and help us determine our purpose and stuff like that. So let's not wait while it reaches the end and we're now looking for help and we reach rock bottom, but let's take that proactive approach. Yeah.
Can the groomie become a groomer?
Yes, it is possible. And that was possible with the example that I shared with that offender in prison. Because he was groomed and because he was sexually abused, he became that as well. He became that as well. And oftentimes when they don't seek help during that period and there is no intervention, there is no, whether it be therapeutic intervention, whether, it's brought in the light through the police services or whatever, if there is no intervention, then there's a high risk that person can now become a groomer. But I do want to highlight that, remember, this whole lingo of grooming is so technical. It develops over time, especially in our technological era. It happens online. So you find adults perpetrating themselves as young persons to try to lure in our children, to lure in the younger ones. They pretend to be younger, they buy gifts, they may invite them to take them on outings. They insert themselves into their homes. I would babysit. I will take them out for you. They give advice, they show understanding, they give attention. And that really brings in the sinister part of grooming, if I would say so, and that's my personal opinion, because they are fully aware of why they are doing what they're doing.
But that is not that, Verkisha, but that is not cultural. That isn't a cultural thing that men from way back when, they would say that they are tracking or they are tackling, and some of these same methods that you are attributing to grooming has been part of the culture of men going after women. Not so. Am I onto something? Eh?
Yes, it can be part of the culture. It's definitely. But when you look at the nature of it, is that persistent coercion of doing this to you. It's authority, it's power, it's control that I have over you. When we look at tracking our local parlance, and especially culturally, you're walking these streets, someone heckled to you, they're trying to get to your number, but you can still resist. You still have that power to resist. You still have that control, But when someone is forcing to take away that control that you now have, that is what we're looking at.
Okay. Mr. Graham, I hope your husband is listening to the program this morning.
Yes, he is.
I want to tell him hi for me. I'll tell him hi one time. I'm going to say, I'll tell you to tell him hello for me. So, Pastor Leito, I hope you enjoyed the session as I did, and I am thankful for you lending us your wife this morning. Wherever you are who have been listening to us, 2 minutes, I will do the promo. If you still want to call, you can call. I just want to say that I'm thankful for those who have been given, and those who would like to give, you can send your donation or your funding or whatever you want, choose to call it, to First Citizen Bank, account number 1450203, or RBC account number 100079170324555. I want to call over that RBC again because it's a long number. 1003. That's 1 and 3 zeros. 791-703-24555. And for all those who have been listening to us this morning, we are grateful for you being here with us. As I said this morning, I saw that 100 person became a subscriber this morning. And for 2 months, Verkisha, that ain't bad, right? It ain't bad.
You're doing good. God be praised.
Verkisha, I want to ask you something. Actually, on air, there's a program that we did on something similar to that. It's on your podcast. I want to put it onto my channel. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, definitely. That's quite okay.
Yeah, okay then. Until we meet again, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, who are listening to us, Alex, thank you very much. And may God bless you and your family on our way out. Bye-bye, everybody.
You're very welcome, Pastor. Thank you very much. Blessings to you and to Ms. Graham as well. This was the program Victorious Lifestyle right here on Talk City 91.1 FM every Sunday.